about obviously where you're seeing the deck and how you can portray it. You know, there's so many things, so many ways that you can go. Sometimes just don't complicate it. Just the first thing that you see. Some people sometimes look at death and they want to overcomplicate it, and I just think you just have to just be quite transparent with it. Yeah.
I think the overcomplication probably comes from the fact that people think, oh, change, and I don't want change.
And people are scared. If you've got a client and all of a sudden the death card comes up, you're like, they don't know what it is, and it's something could be very positive, and actually it is positive.
I think it is positive.
Because the way I look at that is that someone's actually guiding you to the next direction. So this is a positive outcome for you.
Something is finally happening.
Yeah,
something
it's
that's
manifesting.
Yeah. It's like fate, because
Yeah.
you get the tens in the minor arcana, which is kind of like they're all deaths in their own way. But the majors are just, hey, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's happening, and don't worry about it because it's moving you on to the next stage of your life or whatever.
Yeah.
But I noticed with the tower, it's like I've had it come up for like a really heated argument, you know, it's like bang, like this is shaking up a situation versus death being
I mean, sometimes sometimes Tower is very direct as well. Like I hardly ever draw the Tower, ever. Like, you know, I had death for ages, and to me signified that I was going through a transition, which I still am, and it's going very slow. But then I was in. Shut up. Then I was in Finland. That's the Tower. Then I was in Finland last weekend, and I was talking to Tara, and we were doing readings, and I'm like, oh, I never picked the Tower, and lo and behold, I'm doing readings over something was coming out, and I picked it 3 times, and I started freaking out, because as you said, you can't avoid the Tower, it's happening, but there was no context in my particular reading. It was just there in the reading to say something is going to turn around. I'm still waiting, but yeah.
The energy is just...
The energies was very, very strong. So if it was death, as I got it before, I would think more on the line that you were saying of moving on and regenerating myself.
Or letting go.
Or letting go.
Yeah.
Or seeing, not too absorbed in it, as I call it, not being blind, you know, and
well, you get lots of situations where really you know it's manifesting and it niggles you, and sometimes you just need to have that letting go, and sometimes you need to have that to be transparent within a card, and I sometimes feel that could be a letting go period or a healing period.
Or needing rest, needing regeneration, needing to take a step back and not push it, not rush it. It could simply be telling you that you need to do a bit of a 4 of Swords, you know, take a step back and chill. Don't push it. Don't.
Yeah.
It'll come, but don't. Yeah, that's a very good take on that. Yeah, sorry.
Just wanted to say, like, in my readings, the death card a lot of the times come up with 2 similar meanings. One was a death of a certain role, let's say, role as a student, and I'm starting to work, or death as my role as, let's say, not being mother, and then give birth to a child. So it's not really death, it's like transformation of a certain role.
Yeah.
Or usually, quite often actually, the death in my readings point out to changing of a certain behavior or pattern that's preventing somebody from getting some sort of understanding or knowledge. So this opinion or pattern, how you see things, needs to die, and you need to transform it in terms of you being able to grow and see the situation from a different, more fruitful angle.
And that would coincide with the hangman, because the hangman comes before that, so it's changing your perspective of something. And as a result of that, change is happening in your life.
I think perhaps one of the most challenging, as a reader, when you read for someone else, one of the most challenging things about death coming out in the reading is having to explain, as you explained very well actually, how the person needs to go through that particular transformation. Because people don't like change. So whatever the situation that they're asking for, either be career or relationship, the death card comes up because obviously there is a need for change. Or change is already happening, and it's then in your court to explain to the person or to yourself, if you're reading for yourself, what that change pertains to without, and explaining where do they need to go and clarify how the change is going to happen. Because most people, when they see that card, they simply just panic or think it's going to be very fast and they're just going to go all of a sudden through this turmoil, which not necessarily it's the case at all. It could just be that it doesn't even need an ending. It could be a relationship changes. For example, if you are in a relationship that is not very close, or maybe you're long distance, then maybe you get together. It could be such a number of things that it doesn't necessarily have to be close to the meanings of death as the actual word implies, because death is very final as a word. You say death, it's ended, it's over. But no, I don't think that's the case with this card. I think it's far from over. I think if I had to rename it, I probably wouldn't even say transformation. I probably would rename it something like rebirth. Yeah, rebirthing yourself. I find that also death can be a very karmic card in a reading. It can signify having to lose karmic connections, having to let go of certain past karmic ties, having to restart or pay your dues, so to speak. I think there are a few tarot cards that I feel are very karmic, one being death, and the other one being even temperance, actually.
I think it also could be a wake-up call. So have you got something which is you keep wanting to go to and it's not actually working at the moment? This is actually could be something where it's like, hello, this card is here for a wake-up call. We need to act upon it now. Something like that. So it could be,
And also, it could be telling you to, like I was saying, not to push it. Yeah. Like, say, for example, you want something to happen really bad, but it's not really for your own good. And so the death card would come up by saying, a change will happen, but this is not really good for you, so don't push it, stop pushing it to go forward, because it's not really for you at this point in time. Could be.
I guess actually a lot of the meanings of the cards depend on what deck you're working with.
Yeah, as well.
And also how you interpret them.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us are saying different things, like, this is, we agree on, we have some common ground, but then we have our own perspective of it as well.
That was my point of bringing the, different death cards, just to give an idea, because one of my questions, I don't know if you were already here or not, at the beginning was, what do you think, from the personal deck that you use, how do you see death? Because we all use different decks, so obviously in some of the decks it's even renamed, it's not even death. Some people also rename it like transformation or such, so what my take on the deck I use could be totally different from you. I know you're a Toth user. Is it death on the top? Is it called death?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. It's definitely called death.
So, it could be totally different, and that was my one of my initial questions. What do you see in your deck? How do you see your deck, as in your deck, if you have to interpret it? Because I can see these, and I can give you my take on these, which I use, but your one could be completely different. Some decks are really positive, they're very happy decks.
I think that's what, for me, I don't get me on, and everything is not fluffy and squeaky clean. I'm somebody who would deliver guidelines, and if it's something which needs to be serious, I can be serious. But I think for me, who's once when I was younger had a real bad reading from a delivery, and I think delivery and reading is very important. I think it's something which needs to be important, and you can emphasise the death card in so many aspects. It could be something which is a real intense warning, but you can deliver it in a way that you can say this is actually a card of warning, but it's good for you because you can take control of that. So I think it's the way also in yourself how you see it, and obviously it's to do with the delivery as well.
And of course, your relationship with the querent and so on, like depending on what reading you're doing, if it's face to face or email, etc. It does make it. I think it does make a difference, because you have to be very careful. Most of my readings are email readings or online readings, and no matter how good you are in communicating in online social media, you always have to remember it's a cold mean. So,
definitely.
you know, you might be very, very good, but you know that you're coming across much different than you are now with me face to face, where your body language.
You can only read text in black and white.
And I try, you know, when I do an email reading, it takes me forever. It takes me actually longer than face to face, because I have to go back, reread it, and make sure I'm conveying exactly what I mean, and the person is not going to read and go and get something completely different.
Suggestion for that. Why don't you just record a video and send that?
Yeah, I do that because I do Skype readings as well, but some of them are just email, like plain one
But you can
question.
still just like record it on your computer and email it.
Could do, but I don't like my squeaky voice, but yes.
You'll still get that on Skype though.
Sorry?
You will still get that on Skype.
It comes out different. Have you seen the what Henry's posting all of these where I'm actually recorded on YouTube?
Right, no I haven't
You
seen
haven't seen the link? You can post the link tonight. Yeah, there's quite a few there, and yeah, I don't quite know what it was, but yeah, yes, it's a good suggestion. That's good.
But I think that sometimes it's important to take on board that sometimes these difficult cards actually are very difficult, because that was the original intention to my mind. Sometimes you can't, however much you want to do a positive spin on things, sometimes life is tough and dark. And I had this experience of reading for this woman, and her question was that she was asking about a cruise that she was going on, and she asked me, how's it going to go? And I did this layout, and it was ghastly, absolutely dreadful. On the inner level, it was something like the devil, and the outcome was something like death. You know.
That's wonderful.
And
Sounds like fun.
On a cruise, yeah.
and she had her honeymoon later. And I looked at it, and I was so shocked. I thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to try and present this in a positive way, or what am I going to do? So I kind of said to her, you know, do you really want to go on this cruise? And she said, no, but I have to. And basically, once she got talking, once we talked about it more, it turned out that she'd been asked to go with her sister who was dying.
Oh.
So it's actually a terrible situation. It was going to be very sad, very difficult, because her sister didn't have long to live. So it was actually a terrible situation, but she had to go. So do you see what I mean? On the surface, she's saying, oh, cruise, they're thinking, it's all going to be fun and nice and light. And then all this horrible stuff came up. And it would have been easy to think, oh my God, I don't want to scare this queer, and I better put a positive spin on it. But actually, when the truth came out, it actually was horrible.
It was she didn't want to go back.
So it turned out to be a very healing reading in the end, thank God. So, you know, thank goodness I managed to say the right thing rather than the wrong thing, but, you know.
Yeah, but that's the beauty. If you do face-to-face, you can inquire. If you do email, you would have simply sent something. That's why I always stick away from it.
It's different, and it brings back the fact that, like you were saying, all the situations are different, and it is a difficult card, like others. Well, they all can be difficult, but I think some more than others. In that case, she clarified it for you really nicely. But there are cases, and there are many, thankfully, where, for example, death actually implied physical death. But it's very difficult to ascertain, and as you were saying about delivery, you have to be really, really careful what you are conveying. I mean, I don't know if I've given this example before. This is from someone I know in the tarot world, and she had a husband and a father and son go for a reading, and the death card came out, and she had this really strong gut feeling that it actually meant death, as in dying, but she had nothing to go on, so she was professional, and she just said, well, you know, I think something is going to really change, blah, blah, blah. Only to find out a week later that the actual son committed suicide. Now, she didn't know the background to that. He had issues, you know, and it was the reason they went for a reading was to try and clarify this issue, to see if there was some counselling. They didn't tell her, but she had a strong feeling that it actually meant physical death, and in that case, sadly, the young person ended up committing suicide. So I think it's very difficult for any reader, professional or not, to actually go out and formulate on that. I think you might